Zambia, one of the wildest countries in Africa. It's home to the spectacular Victoria Falls, fed by the mighty Zambezi River, which divides Zambia from Zimbabwe. Along one of its most remote and isolated stretches, two longtime friends planned a quiet weekend fishing trip. Arthur Taylor and Alistair Gallantley had been friends for over 25 years. Their families were close. Their children had grown up together. Alistair wasn't just a friend, he was family. Calm under pressure, dependable, and loyal. Joining them on this trip were Arthur's English wife, Faye, and her visiting parents, Clive and Brenda, both retired teachers from the UK. That morning had started peacefully. The fishing had been poor, and when Brenda finally caught a fish, there was a cheer of excitement. Spirits were high. A short break under the shade of some nearby trees seemed like a great idea. But without warning, the trip took a horrific turn. The boat was suddenly caught in the Zambezi's strong, deceptive current. Within moments, it had become snagged midstream. Clive and Alistair clung to the vessel as it lodged in place. The others weren't so lucky, they were swept downstream. There was no time to think. No time to plan. Just raw survival. The Zambezi is infamous for its deadly whirlpools and unpredictable flows. Every year, countless lives are lost in its waters. Faye thought only of her children. What if they had been with her? They would have been thrown into the water instantly. Stranded on the boat, Clive and Alistair could only watch helplessly as their loved ones disappeared with the current. Those in the water had no control, no idea where they were being taken, just the instinct to stay afloat. They knew their only hope was to reach shallower waters. Luckily, the current drifted them toward a mid-river sandbank, where the water calmed enough for them to gain control. Back on the boat, Alistair quickly assessed the situation. This was no ordinary mishap, this was life or death. He knew this remote part of the river was notorious for crocodile attacks. Every year, hundreds fall victim to these stealthy predators. As the only single man in the group, he made a difficult decision. He dove into the water to scout the situation. As he swam, the crocodile struck. The force of the attack was devastating. Alistair's arm was broken in 3 places. His shoulder dislocated and torn from its socket. In immense pain and rapidly losing blood, he did the only thing he could, he made a makeshift tourniquet to slow the bleeding. Meanwhile, Clive was still stuck on the sinking boat. He had no choice. He had to swim to safety. Staying on the boat overnight would have meant certain death. But swimming in crocodile-infested waters after witnessing an attack was beyond terrifying. Still, he jumped in and made it to shore. On land, Brenda stood helpless, watching the nightmare unfold. It was agonizing. Fear, uncertainty, and dread loomed heavy in the air. As for Alistair, his condition worsened by the hour. His open wound, exposed to filthy water, became a ticking time bomb. He had no antiseptics, no bandages, nothing clean. He knew that crocodile mouths are filled with deadly bacteria. Gangrene was a real threat. If infection didn't take his life, predators would. And night was approaching. As darkness fell, the group called out to Alistair, but as hyenas began to howl in the distance, they stopped. They feared their voices would draw predators to his location. In the African bush, nightfall brings out the deadliest hunters: leopards, hyenas, lions. They can smell blood from miles away. Alistair heard their calls. Then, Silence. That's when the fear really set in. He gathered rocks, preparing to defend himself if anything approached. Alone, weak, bleeding, and in pain, he braced himself for a long and terrifying night. Dawn came slowly, but it came. The sunrise brought an overwhelming sense of relief. They had made it through the night. But no one knew if Alistair had survived. After almost 20 hours stranded in the wild, hope was fading. They were exhausted, mentally and physically. But deep down, they held on to the belief that someone would come. Then, on the horizon, canoes. A group of canoeists had ventured farther down the river than usual. At first, they thought they saw people fishing in the middle of nowhere. Then they realized something was wrong. The relief was overwhelming. Help had arrived. The rescuers brought them to safety. But still, no word from Alistair. Hours later, across the river, they finally spotted him. Against all odds, he was alive. They brought him in and rushed him to medical care. Despite the severity of his injuries, surgeons managed to save his arm. It was nothing short of a miracle. They had survived the Zambezi, one of Africa's most unforgiving rivers, but they would never forget the terror, the helplessness, and the sheer will to live that carried them through.